May 12th, 2020 meeting of the Henderson County Fiscal Court. Joining us via Facebook Live, we appreciate it. If you're on Zoom now, there we go. That'll help. And we will begin, as we always do, with an invocation. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, please watch over our community as we deal with this global pandemic and we think about people in other parts of the world who are in the fight with us. We ask you to remember those who have died and watch over our community and this fiscal court as we make decisions that we hope will help our residents. Please watch over first responders and their families. Please help guide us as we move forward in these very new and challenging times. We say all these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of
the United States,
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, with that, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Manager Berry. Manager Moran.
Here.
Manager Putman.
Here.
Manager Southard.
Here.
Manager McCollum.
Okay, you have in front of you the minutes of the April 28th, 2020 fiscal court meeting. After a period of review, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Hey, Judge.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Kurt, did you hear me
Yes.
you hear me when you call the roll? I'm not sure I had my mute off. Okay, thanks.
I move we accept them.
That is Magistrate Putman with a motion, Magistrate Southard with a second. Any other clarifications, corrections, or additions to the minutes of April 28th? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, every year, we, at least for the last several years, we have facilitated a grant to the Warm Center here in Henderson from a CDBG fund that is dedicated to rehabilitation facilities. And it's that time of year where we close out the current year's funding with a public hearing, and then we approve applying for a new fiscal year for that grant. Jennifer Marks is with us from GRAD, who's the administrator on the grants. And Jennifer, anything you want to add to that before we go into public hearing?
No, that's pretty much all. A few things to say when we get into the public hearing, but that's all.
Okay, so what I need now is a magistrate to make a motion to go into public hearing.
So move.
Can I get a second?
A second.
We have a motion from Magistrate Putman, a second from Magistrate Southard to go into public hearing on the annual warm grant closeout. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we're now in public hearing. And for those watching on Facebook Live, we are going to allow you to use the comment feature on our Facebook Live feed to make any comments about the Warm Center funding that we're going to close out for this fiscal year with this particular public hearing. We will be patient to allow folks that chance, and this is part of the procedure to close out these grants and apply for a new one. So we'll wait for a moment. I'll ask for a and Jennifer, while we do that, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, just a little bit of info kind of on, I know a lot of you are already aware, we do this yearly, but this this specific public hearing we're doing right now is to close out the funds that we have already received from the 2019-2020 funding round of community development block grants. Just to provide a little bit of back history for those who don't know, the Warm Center Women's Addiction Recovery Manor has been in existence for 12 years now. And this past year, they utilized the $190,000 to pay staff salaries. And then that, of course, has been done since the center opened. The building was originally built through funding with tax credits, home funds, affordable housing trust fund, all that stuff. And then with all that being said, like Judge Schneider said, that we are giving you guys a moment to put comments. And of course, if you have comments after today, if you'll just email them to Judge Schneider, we will get them taken care of and submitted as need be on this project.
Noticed Magistrate McCollum is with us now. Please note that. And does anybody have any questions of Jennifer about this annual grant that we funnel to the Warm Center? I'm going to ask for a second time. I have to ask 3 times for comment. So anybody who'd like to make a comment can do so in the comments section of Facebook Live. You can also send me an email at bschneider, BSCHNEIDER, at hendersonky.us, hendersonky.us. Any comments can be recorded there as well. I will ask for a third time for any comments via Facebook Live. Again, you can also send an email. I'm going to be patient for a bit to give anybody a chance to do that. And Steve, if you're monitoring this, any questions popping up? Because of this format, we might want to be just a little bit more patient, give people a chance to make a comment. And I appreciate you waiting a bit. Anything popping up? Okay. We have no comments so far. So I believe we just entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go out of public hearing. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are out of public hearing, and now we're going to go back into public hearing on the new grant for 2021. And again, we'll get Jennifer to make some remarks, but I need a motion to go back into public hearing on the new WARM grant application.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Magistrate Putman, second by Magistrate Moran. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Jennifer, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Judge. Like Judge Schneider said, we are doing another public hearing. This is to submit an application for this current year's funding. We also like to do these public hearings so that we are able to provide information just to the community in general on low and moderate income technical assistance through housing that can be provided through the grad office. Of course, you can always give us a call, reach out if you're more interested in that info. There are essentially 4 types of community development block grant projects that we do administer: public facilities, economic development, housing, and community facilities. The Women's Addiction Recovery Manor is funded through the Recovery Kentucky program. Of course, it was originally constructed to be a facility for approximately 100 women at a time, but over the years they have served 5,000 clients. It has been recommended by the Department for Local Government that we do we submit an application and request $200,000 for 2020, 2021. The block grant funds that are obtained do come through HUD. And because of that, we have to inform you that no one will be displaced with this project. But of course, if you need a copy of the Uniform Displacement Act, you can see that at Fiscal Court, or there's also a copy at grad. So if there's any questions or comments on this for us submitting this application, please let me know.
Any questions from any of the magistrates? And I will also ask for public comment from anybody who watching Facebook Live would like to comment in the comment section of the video. You can also email me at B as in boy, Schneider, SCHNEIDER at hendersonky.us. That's B Schneider at hendersonky.us. I'll ask again if anybody would like to submit a comment on Facebook or email my email address, bschneider at hendersonky.us. You're welcome to. I'll ask one more time as required. Anybody have any comment, they can write in on Facebook Live or send me an email, bschneider at hendersonky.us. Steve, any comments?
At this point, Judge, there are no comments.
Okay, thank you. With that, I will entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So move.
Second.
We had a motion by Magistrate Putman and several seconds. Followed Magistrate Southard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the final step is to read the resolution for the new grant application, which we will be voting on, and this just gives them the right to go ahead and get the CDBG grant for 2020, 2021. So with that, I'll ask the clerk to read the resolution.
A resolution authorizing the judge executive to sign and submit a community development block grant application to the Kentucky Department for Local Government. Be resolved by the Henderson County Fiscal Court that the judge executive be and is hereby authorized to sign and submit an application for community development block grant funds to the Kentucky Development for Local Government for the Women's Addiction Recovery Manor.
Any questions? Entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Magistrate Moran, second by Magistrate Berry. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And before we let Jennifer go, I'll mention that she is soon going to be joining our Planning Commission office, replacing Claudia Wayne, who's retiring. And we think it's very fortunate that we get somebody who is talented and experienced as Jennifer. So we look forward to seeing more of you, Jennifer, and welcome aboard.
Yeah, thanks, Judge.
We will see you soon. Okay, also in your packet is a resolution that we sign every year with KYTC to basically agree to spend the county road aid money that they send us in the way that we're supposed to. That is in your packet under the cooperative agreement. Before I have the clerk read the resolution, any questions on this? Again, it's an annual agreement we signed that agree that we're going to spend the money the way that we're supposed to when we get it from the state.
Judge, the agreement's been reviewed and approved as to form and legality.
Thank you. Remember to mute if you're not talking. With that, I'll have the clerk read the resolution, please.
Fiscal Court of Henderson County, resolution adopting and approving the execution of County Road Aid Co-op Program of contract between the Fiscal Court and the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Transportation Cabinet Department of Rural and Municipal Aid for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020, as provided in the Kentucky Revised Statutes. All roads and streets referred to therein as being part of the county road system. Be it resolved by the Fiscal Court that the Fiscal Court does hereby accept all roads and streets referred to in said contract as being part of the county road system. And the Fiscal Court does here ratify and adopt all statements, representations, warranties, covenants, and agreements contained in said contract and does hereby accept said contract, and by such acceptance agrees to all terms and conditions therein. And the county judge executive of the county is hereby authorized and directed to sign said contract as set forth on behalf of the fiscal court of Henderson County. And the county clerk of Henderson County is hereby authorized and directed to certify thereto.
Any questions?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion from Magistrate McCullum and a second from Magistrate Southard. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Next in your packet, you may remember that last year we agreed to ask for the reservation of $350,000 in our coal severance money that is kept in an account in Frankfurt for us as our potential match for the work that's going on at the airport under the auspices of the Federal Aviation Administration. It's a multi-million-dollar project that is primarily going to be funded by the FAA, but both the city and the county had to come up with a percentage match, and that amount added up to $350,000. At the end of the legislative session, there was a bill passed that basically requires us to do this all over again, at least perform a resolution as we did before. We're getting concurrence letters from our state legislators, as they had to do before. And again, this will reserve up to $350,000 of our coal severance money to be used as a potential match. The project is a multi-year project, so it's not as if we're going to have to spend all this money up front. And in addition to that, we may be doing some of the work through our road department crews, which will act as in-kind matching. So we may not need all the $350,000 anyway, but it's good to know it's there in case we need it. So we have a resolution that we have to pass again and submit to DLG. And so that resolution is in your packet. And before we have the clerk read the resolution, does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, thanks. Mr. Clerk, would you please read the resolution?
A resolution authorizing the filing of a Kentucky Local Government Economic Development Fund project proposal grant application for up to $350,000 in local government economic development single county funds with the Development for Local Government, DLG, authorizing and directing the Henderson County Judge Executive to execute any documents which are deemed necessary by DLG to carry out this project, and authorizing the Judge Executive to act as the authorized correspondent for this project. Whereas Henderson County desires to promote and carry out economic development efforts on behalf of the residents of Henderson County by maintaining and improving the Henderson City County Airport, and whereas Henderson County previously applied for and received funding for the LGEDF grant monies under the prior state budget, and whereas the Henderson Fiscal Court deems it in the best interest of Henderson County to approve continuation of the project and taking all necessary steps to ensure funding pursuant to the current state budget. And whereas it is recognized that the LGEDF grant money is available to the county for the purposes stated herein, pursuant to KRS 42.4582 to 42.495 and 2020 Kentucky General Assembly House Bill 352 budget bill, impose certain obligations and responsibilities upon the county and will require, among other things, 1, the approval of a satisfactory application transmitted for DLG for approval, and 2, concurrence from respective state representatives and state senator, and 3, other obligations of the county in connection with receiving the LGEDF grant monies for the purpose stated therein. Now therefore be resolved this 12th day of May 2020 by the Henderson County Fiscal Court that House Bill 352 coal severance project proposal application on behalf of the county for LGEDF monies up to $350,000 for the Henderson City County Airport Development Project shall be submitted to DLG for the continuance of the project. The county shall provide such additional information and furnish such documentation as may be required, and the county judge executive shall act as the authorized correspondent for this project.
Any questions or discussion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Magistrate Putman, a second by Magistrate Berry. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Next in your packet is request by Pine Bluff LLC, Pine Bluff Materials, to renew their sand and gravel lease with the county. They have been a good corporate citizen since signing the deal under their former entity, Hunter Sand and Gravel. During that initial agreement, part of the contract spoke to 3 renewals. And with that, I may turn it over to Mr. Gold for any comment he'd like to make on this potential agreement.
Judge, this actually involves 2 different leases. One is the non-exclusive lease for dredging the river, and the other is a land lease on the property owned by the county on West Main Street. Each of those were entered into in, I believe, 2015. The initial term was a 5-year term with 4-year renewals. And the folks from Pine Bluff have indicated to us that they would like to exercise those renewals. The clause that we had in those prior leases said that those fiscal courts could not bind this fiscal court, so any renewal would be subject to approval by this fiscal court. So that's what this would be doing, would be approving those renewals of those 2 leases upon the current terms.
Steve, is the fee for the tonnage, is it the same as all the others?
Yes, sir.
And what's the fee for rental of the land down there on South Main Street?
I don't have that in front of me. I'm sorry. I think Kurt may have that.
I think Kurt's. I will say Pine Bluff has been great to work with. They've carried out their duties under the contract without issue. And they've also been a pretty good corporate citizen in this community as well. So I've enjoyed working with them. I think Kurt might have found the lease agreement.
I believe we're getting $850 a month for the property lease.
Okay, thank you.
And that's approximately 1.82 acres on West Main Street. And from looking at the PVA's office, it appears to be unimproved, but I haven't gone by and looked. It's right next to property that they own and operate their business on.
I've reviewed that, Steve, back when I was county attorney. It is unimproved. I believe that used to be the county road department lot back in the 60s, and before we moved out to where our current location is.
Yes.
I'd make a motion to approve the renewal.
We have a motion.
Second.
Magistrate McCollum, second from Magistrate Southern. Is that correct?
Putman.
Putman, I'm sorry, Magistrate Putman. Motion is second. We haven't read the resolution yet, I guess.
I'm
Go ahead and
sorry.
read the resolution, please, Kurt.
All right. Whereas the Henderson County Fiscal Court entered into a non-exclusive lease with Hunter Sand and Gravel LLC in 2015, which was subsequently assigned to Pine Bluff Materials and LLC in 2016 for the right to dredge, dig, and remove the sand and gravel underlying the portion of Ohio River lying north of the thread of the stream, except accretions to islands privately owned, and is a non-exclusive lease wherein Henderson County reserved the right to execute as many other leases for the removal of the sand and gravel from the premises as it deemed desirable and beneficial to the county. And whereas the Henderson County Fiscal Court also previously entered into a lease of approximately 1.82 acres of land located on West Main Street in the city of Henderson, PBA parcel number 1-3-4-2 with Hunter Sand and Gravel LLC in 2015, which was subsequently assigned to Pine Bluff Materials Company LLC in 2016. And whereas each of the aforementioned of the leases, including a clause stating it was the intent of the parties that there may be up to 3 4-year renewals of this agreement upon the same terms, subject to the dictates of the state law and the approval of the then sitting fiscal court. And whereas legally unclear of whether or not Henderson County Fiscal Court may bind the county to leases for periods beyond the terms of the individual fiscal court magistrates and county judge executive. And whereas the Henderson County Fiscal Court deems it in the best interest of the county to approve the extension of both leases to expire on July 31st, 2024. And whereas Pine Bluff Materials LLC has expressed its desire to renew both the land lease and the non-exclusive dredging lease with the understanding that the Henderson County Fiscal Court will be held harmless if there's any challenge to either lease based upon the lease period being beyond the terms of the current fiscal court. Now therefore be it resolved by the Fiscal Court County of Henderson as follows. That 1, the Henderson County Fiscal Court hereby approves the renewal of the existing non-exclusive dredging lease with Pine Bluff Materials Company LLC through July 31st, 2024. And number 2, that the Henderson County Fiscal Court hereby approves the renewal of the existing land lease with Pine Bluff Materials Company LLC through July 31st, 2024.
Renew my
Okay.
motion.
Second.
Motion by Master McCollum, second by Master Putman. Any questions about that or discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we have a grant agreement that we're going to be considering. And here to give us a little bit more background on this is Whitney Risley from Henderson Economic Development. And I'll turn the floor over to you, Whitney, for a brief description of this agreement.
All right, thank you, Judge. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I am here to discuss the Product Development Initiative, PDI. We have come to you all previously as we were submitting this grant proposal and being selected. This is for the gas line extension at the 425 bypass property, which is also now the CSX select site for Henderson. And that grant is in the process of getting the final dollars approved through the state for funding. And this agreement is just to finalize all the paperwork so we can begin work here locally.
One of the details in this agreement is that because of the restrictions of the grant, the county will act as the grantee. The money from this particular pot of cash will come to the county, and then we will relay it to the city, which is building the pipeline and also fronting its own amount of money to help the project. Also being applied to this project is, I think, $100,000 in TVA funds that we voted on earlier to allow economic development to put towards this project. So there's several agencies involved, skin in the game to make this happen. And again, this will increase the attractiveness of the site, having natural gas right on its doorstep. And this particular PDI grant is, again, worth about $175,000 towards this extension. And again, the county is going to act as the conduit for the money to go to the city. The city will keep track of all the work with us to turn in the proper summaries of the expenditures to the state, and we'll ask Whitney and the staff at Economic Development to also assist and make sure all those things get done properly. And hopefully we will, by September, I think, of next year, this will be done and make the site even more teed up for a new industry. Any questions of Whitney or anything on this agreement? Apparently it's 10 o'clock. Any questions? With that, I will entertain a motion to approve this agreement.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Magistrate Southard, a second by Magistrate Berry. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Whitney.
Thank you.
They will be going before the KEDFA board, the Kentucky Economic Development Finance Authority board, with the finished agreements. Hopefully we get a solid response, a positive response there, and then the project will be underway, correct?
Yes, the city will hold a special called meeting this afternoon to also formalize their agreement. And then the project will go to the KEDFA meeting on May 28th.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
We have a couple reappointments to the Riverport board. A couple appointments and a reappointment. The reappointment is Alan Powell, current board member, who would like to be reappointed, and Executive Director of the Riverport, Greg Pritchett, supports that reappointment. And we also have two new appointments also suggested and supported by Greg Pritchett, Tony Crampy and Ben Johnston, who I think you all know, as new members of the Riverport board. Any questions about those appointments? So I'd like a motion to reappoint Alan Powell to the Riverport board and make Tony Crampy and Ben Johnston new appointments to the Riverport board, please.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Magistrate Moran, a second by Magistrate Berry. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we have our annual KYTC and Detention Center contract for inmate work crews. And with that, I notice Jailer Brady is with us. And Amy, if you want to comment on any on this or any input.
Morning. The grant paperwork, morning. Lori spoke with the state and they said that the paperwork is just, I guess they're working on a different year than we are, and they needed some additional funds to get us through the rest of the year because they are still going to pay the officers' salary and benefits while this pandemic's going on.
So Amy, is this a partial contract? Partial year?
No, it's the full contract. They went ahead and included this next year into it, but they just needed the funding for it.
Been reviewed and approved as form and legality, Judge.
Any questions?
Move to
of Jailer
approve.
Brady?
Move to
A
approve.
second.
We have a motion by Magistrate Putman, a second by Magistrate Southard. Any other questions?
Yeah, Steve, I think there's, we're swearing or affirming that there's no violations of certain Kentucky revised statutes. Could you tell us what those are?
There's actually quite a few. Let me pull that up here. Of course, one of the requirements has to do with, there are a lot of boilerplate type things that include everything from collusion to discrimination, all of those types of things. Let me see here, it is. It's a 13-page contract, and within that contract, there are a whole lot of things that we are agreeing that we're going to do. It is substantially similar to the one that was signed last year. Particular as far as statutes that we're talking about. Of course, safety statutes. none of the people operating under it will be considered employees of the state, even though they're going to be paid through the state. Pursuant to KRS 45A.725, the LRC has established policies which govern rates payable for certain professional services. That's mentioned in there. The Equal Employment Opportunity Act of 1978. We are certifying that we are properly authorized under the laws of the Commonwealth of Kentucky to conduct business in the state, and going to maintain a certification to conduct business. We are agreeing, looking for things, and particularly since your questions were about statute, to certain campaign finance things that I do not believe apply to governmental or quasi-governmental entities. We will allow them access to records under 45A.030 and comply with the Open Records Act, KRS 61.870 to 61.884. We are not going to violate employment laws. We're going to comply with KRS 45A.485 regarding any subcontractors. The Americans with Disabilities Act, Executive Order 11246 of September 24, 1965, that is also a U.S. Department of Labor order. Generally, these are things that any employer are subject to. OSHA, things like that.
So we're in
forward the
compliance,
entirety of
though.
the contract. Like I said, it's 13 pages. I'm trying to summarize.
I have a copy of it, but I just making sure we're in compliance.
Oh, okay. That would be Jailer Brady's responsibility to make sure that is the case. As far as I know, we're in compliance.
Okay.
And Amy, you've never been cited for any compliance issues in your history with the state. Is that correct?
No, that is correct.
Amy, are we
Any
running
other
a crew
questions?
now, or are we? Amy, are we running
Pardon?
a crew now, or are we out for the virus?
We still cannot, the state hasn't let up and allowed us to work inmates at any locations that they may be in contact with the general public. So right now we're allowed to mow the cloverleafs basically because there's no, or there shouldn't be anybody up there walking around that they can come in contact with, but any other locations are still shut down.
Okay, thank you.
Remind me, did we have a motion yet, or do we need one still?
I think we need one. I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
Second.
Solomon, second from Ms. Southard. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next two items in your packet are the designation of applicants, agent for FEMA funding, other emergency funding in the case of two particular events. One is the flooding we had earlier this year in February. We may or may not file an application, but we do need to designate the agent who will be filing it with us. And also, obviously, the COVID-19 emergency, any applications we make to recoup any costs on this require an agent. And for the February flooding, you see the document would list Bill Hubiak as our applicant's agent. And for COVID-19, it would be Kenny Garrett. So we have to vote on those two appointments for applicant's agent. Can I get a motion to appoint Bill Hubiak as our applicant's agent for the February flooding?
So moved.
I'll move.
So moved.
We have a motion from Magistrate Putman, a second by Magistrate Moran. Any questions about that? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. And we need a motion to designate Kenny Garrett as our applicant's agent for any COVID-19 relief applications.
So moved.
Second.
I'll give it to Mr. Barry, Magistrate Barry, and a second by Magistrate McCollum, just to make sure everybody gets in the minutes.
Don't fight over.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Speaking of Mr. Hubiak, I want to get him in front of the camera here, and we're going to open the bids for the dump truck that he has budgeted. And I'll let him open up the bid. You might want to hit the sound, Mr. Hubiak.
Can you hear me, Judge?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. We have received a bid from
Yes.
Yes.
Olmac Truck Sales, Evansville, Indiana. Their proposal is for a granite truck. This will be a single axle dump truck. The total bid package for the truck unit is $108,589, and then the body, which is the dump bed itself and the snow plow setup on it, is another $35,861 for a total of $144,450. I've asked the court to let me review the bid, make sure all the specifications are correct, and bring it back to fiscal court at our next meeting, please.
Is that amenable to everybody?
Yes, so I'd make a motion to that.
Yeah, I'd second it.
Motion, Magistrate McCollum, second Magistrate Putman, to give Bill a chance to go review it and come back with a recommendation next fiscal court meeting. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Sheriff Brady wanted a chance to address the court about a personnel concern that he has, and with that, I'll turn it over to Sheriff Brady.
Good morning, Judge and Court. Appreciate you giving me just a couple of minutes. As most of you will recall, back in the fall, I informed the court that I believe we were going to get ready to run on a kind of a tough stretch on keeping personnel. And what I want to do today is make a recommendation on something I think that would help us. Right now, we're 3 deputies short. Within the last couple of weeks, we were able to locate a certified officer who was interested in coming to our agency. Certified means they've already been through the academy, they've already gone through all the requirements that it takes to be hired. And we were going to get just a police officer ready to hit the street and ready to go. One of the conditions on a lateral transfer like this is if they've not been employed for 3 years, the agency that hires has to pay off the employment contract of that officer. We've done that in the past with a couple of people. The advantages of it are this. We can pay a lump sum, but they've already been trained. If we have to send them to the academy and do all the things that are required to get them out on the street, that sometimes will take a year and cost us about $38,000 for all the training and all the equipment and the time and the benefits. With this coronavirus going around, they have postponed all the police academies. We don't know when we'll be able to get another person in the academy if they're not certified. There's a class that is waiting to go. We have one ready to go into that class, but future classes might be held back a year and a half. We don't know. It could take a couple of years to get somebody else through the academy. My request is this. We had an officer that was absolutely a great fit for our agency. We were a good fit for that person. They were excited about coming to work for us. We were going to have to pay off a contract, which is around $30,000. We never got to the point where we got the exact amount. I did talk to the judge about it. The judge recommended that we come to the court and make you all aware of it before we did anything, which was about 10 days. Over the weekend, prior to us meeting, the officer called us on Monday, said he decided to stay where he was. I think he got nervous about it, got cold feet. Quite honestly, I think part of his trepidation about it was that he felt like we had to wait 10 days to actually say we will take you. And he was uncomfortable being at the agency he was at, kind of on hold. And so he backed out. Here's what I would request. If we can find qualified deputies or qualified officers in the future that are certified, and if there is a contract to be paid, that I would come right away as soon as we make an agreement that we do want to work with each other. I would come to the judge right away and make him aware of the circumstances, make him aware of the cost of the contract that we would have to pay off, and the judge be able to say, let's go with it, and we could tell the officer something right away, rather than waiting sometimes a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, where the officer might get cold feet and decide not to. We've lost this good opportunity. I think part of the reason for that was that there was quite a delay before we could actually call this officer back and say, it's good to go. This was a position that is budgeted. There's an opening for it. There was money in the budget, paid the contract. Everything was good except the delay on running it by the court. So all I'm asking is if y'all would consider in the future letting me go through the judge for this, if the judge and I agree that this is a good deal for the county, that we could go ahead and make the offer to the officer without having to wait, run it by the court.
Sheriff, are the buyouts, is it like up to, are you requesting like up to 38,000 buyout, or can they,
No,
are all of them
and
the
Butch,
same?
here's the
Buyouts.
No, for example, the buyout that we're going to have to do for the person we wanted to hire was going to be slightly less than $30,000. It cost us about $38,000 to put somebody through because of a difference in the cost with the benefits, the pay, the uniforms, the equipment, things of that nature. And what I would always do is if it was going to be more than we would pay to send a deputy through, I think that deserves a lot of discussion. If it's going to be less money than what it would normally cost us to train somebody, and we can save the year or 14 months of training where we get no use out of them at all, that the judge and I be able to make that decision and go ahead and do it, as long as it's an opening that is budgeted, and as long as we have money in the budget to do it. But this budget we were going to have to pay was about $8,000 less than what it normally costs us to send somebody through. So I thought it was a bargain from a money standpoint. I knew it was a very good deal as far as being able to put them to work right away and not have to be shorthanded 3 deputies for another year to 14 months. We're still looking for certified, but this was kind of a hitch in the process that I felt was detrimental to the county.
Hey, Sheriff, can I say one thing, Butch? Sheriff, tell me if I'm wrong, but the person you're talking about, the longer they stay at that agency, the less we pay. They stay there, is that right?
No, what it used to be is when there was a contract payout for a deputy or a city police officer, you subtracted 1/36 of that amount from their contract. And if they were there for, say, a year and a half, you only paid half the contract price. they have passed new legislation in which now, if it's any time within the 36 months, you have to pay the total cost of the contract. There's no subtraction on it. So it would have been the total cost of the contract, but it was still cheaper than what it would have cost us to send somebody through the academy. And it's been a lot faster. And we'd only been 2 short instead of 3 short. Right now, we're 3 deputies short. And if somebody's gone to training, vacation, or sick time, we're getting kind of to a critical stage on personnel. I hope that makes sense. If it does,
My
I'll
understanding-
try to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you.
My understanding was that if he comes, then he's in an employment contract with us too. So if he did leave and went somewhere else, they would have to buy out the contract from us too, correct?
That's correct. If we hired someone like this and we just paid $30,000 for their contract, we would also put them under a contract with us, where if they didn't stay for 36 months with us, whoever hired them would have to pay off the contract. So it's a kind of a guarantee that you're going to at least get 36 months service out of the person. And if they leave prior to that, then we would get reimbursed our money. That's right, Tim. And that's a good point. Thank you.
Ed, do we already have that contract prepared? And Steve, have you approved it?
For our people that we hire?
Yes. Well, I mean, if somebody's going to step in place and we're paying off their contract, they're going to sign a contract with us. Do we already have that contract set up and ready to run?
I want to defer to Steve this. We do have a contract that we use that has been prepared and ready to go for somebody in the academy. I would assume we would use the same contract for someone that we hired as a lateral transfer. But if there were minor adjustments to that, I certainly would want Steve Gold to be the guy in charge of writing it in a way that it protects the county and does everything it's supposed to. Steve, do you agree with that?
Yes, sir. And I believe my memory is getting foggy, but I think several years ago, we had a situation like that, and I reviewed a contract and made a couple little tweaks to it.
Ed, I think it's a great idea. Can we get the contract done so we can go ahead and approve that and then give Brad the authority to go ahead and do that maybe at our next meeting?
Well, are you saying just approve the contract in form? Because the officer that we were wanting to hire has backed out on us. And I think part of his nervousness about it was having to wait the 10 days for the court for us to discuss this with the court. And he's in a department now where they knew that he was looking, and I think he felt like he's going to have to sit there for 10 days, kind of in an uncomfortable position, and he wasn't assured that this would be approved. I tried to assure him I felt the court would approve this because it's a good deal for the county. So this person's no longer available to us, but in the future, if we get someone like this, I'd like to know that the judge and I could go ahead and make that decision.
Well, I agree with that. And what I'm saying is, can we get the contract that he's going to sign so we can approve it and do that as all part of the same motion to allow Brad to go ahead and you two work it out? I think we need to have that contract part of the deal.
I agree, and I'd be fine with that, Judge. I'm sure you're okay with that, aren't you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One thing I'd like to point out is that if we get this situation again, $32,000 or whatever the amount is we need to pay off the contract would come out of Ed's budget. He would go other places in his budget and find that money. It wouldn't be an extra burden on the general fund. It would be a call on his part to see if he wanted to sacrifice other parts of his budget in order to get a person. So does that make sense? It was strictly his call on how he wanted to use his money in that way.
And I agree with that, but we've had a similar situation in another organization I was with where we paid off the debts of a certain person. It was expenses for going through school, which is very similar to this. And they didn't put a contract on them. So they got it. We paid off the contract, and then they brought them back in and didn't get another contract approved. And a year later, they walk off. Their debts are all paid, and everything's done, and they're free to leave. So I just think that's why I want to have it so we're covered. And if he did try to walk off, then Ed would get his money back.
Sure, I'm great with that.
We can have a draft contract approved. I mean, we've got it filed somewhere.
I'm actually in favor of if you can find somebody and even if it costs us the same money as what it would cost to send them to the academy, we're still 14 months ahead because they hit the ground running. So I think this is smart. If we can get them, we need to get them already trained. That way we don't lose that 14 months of training.
Tim, my preference would be if we could fill all 3 of our vacancies with certified officers. That's what I'd like to do, because the speed of getting them hired, and number 2, you have a little bit of a track record. You can look at the other agency and see whether they're good police officers or not from their experience at the other agency, and you're kind of reducing some of your risk of hiring the wrong person. So I would look for 3. They're very, very difficult to find, and I'd say to miss out on one that's good because of the time involved in trying to get it approved.
Why don't we leave it this way? For next fiscal court meeting, we'll have that contract in hand, and we'll review this again and basically approve it all as one motion and get it taken care of. Is that amenable to you, Sheriff?
Absolutely. And thank you all for your consideration. We're trying to get a good deal for the county. We're trying to keep the deputies out on the road. I think that works for everybody.
If something happens before the next meeting that he comes available again, or we get something available, can we do something like maybe a special call meeting or something so we don't lose him?
We could.
Absolutely.
Okay. I was going to ask if we're comfortable, and Steve always does a great job for us, that Steve is going to come up with something that we would agree on. We wouldn't have to have that meeting. We just go ahead and do it with this particular person. But either way, I'm just thankful for the opportunity to get these people in here, not lose them.
And
it's a great idea.
Easier than ever to call a special call meeting.
Yes.
Thank you all for your consideration. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. You have in your packets the 2020-2021 budget. We have worked on diligently. Treasurer Ryder has put a cover sheet on there to remind us of the little tweaks that have happened since then. I think I've talked to you about the landfill and solid waste number with a little bit more information. We have decided, I think, we chose to put the $200,000 for landfill and solid waste back in the line item. Again, that was because more information and learning that a vast majority of that money, up to 65 to 70% of the money, was actually used to pay the county's expenses for dumping materials at the landfill. I think that changes the dynamic a little bit there. And we may spend the next year working on the money we use to subsidize folks in the county who take their household garbage up to the landfill. But for now, I think it needs to go back in there as it was in the line item, $200,000. And Brenda did that in this version of the budget. That reduces our general fund contingency from a little over $955,000 down to $755,000. And Brenda, if you can join us here real quickly.
Yes.
You might give everybody a quick briefing on this road fund revenue truck license distribution alteration you had to make.
Okay. The truck license distribution was changed from the $223,513 to the $233,870. This is the appropriation that was approved by the Department of Local Government for the estimated truck receipts for fiscal year 21.
So basically, we get an estimate every year from KYTC about how much money we're going to get in truck license fees, and ended up being $10,000 more than we originally planned. So
yes,
she had to put that in there. And we also had to pick a place on the appropriation side to park that $10,000, and we chose resurfacing and blacktop. So our rural managers will be happy to know we're adding 10 grand more to blacktop. Hope we get to spend all that. So that was that change. And you can see that it moves the blacktop number from $400,000 to $410,357. Any questions on that?
Bill, is Bill on here?
I think he might have left.
Okay. I was just wondering.
He's out of the room right now.
Do you know? Do y'all remember how much we spent on blacktop this year?
I can find that real quick. I got it. Hang on a second, Tim. We have spent $726,000 this year on black. And if you remember, we added a significant amount of money midway through the year for Bill to spend more on blacktop. So that's how much we've spent so far this year.
So it's 300,000 less next year than what it was this year.
That's what we have budgeted. We can always spend more if we choose to. We budgeted, for instance, this year we budgeted $450,000 in blacktop, but we have spent $726 because we felt we needed to.
I know that our roads are suffering, and I also know that 400,000 is not going to be enough to get us ahead of the curve. With that being said, I also know that our funds are going to be more limited, or I don't know it, but I feel it. So I don't know. He will be able to draw from that contingency line like he did last year if needed.
If needed, and if we approve.
Okay.
Again, the budget is a starting point and a goal. It can be altered, as you know, through the course of the year, depending on our needs and revenues, as we're aware that that could be a challenge this coming year. What we put in the budget is not necessarily where we have to end, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Tim, I think you're exactly right. And I wish we could put in more now, but I think we're probably better off under the circumstances, leaving it like it is. And then if we can use some of that contingency money, if the money comes in.
Charlie, just so everybody knows,
hey,
Tim, after looking at the roads last year,
yes,
any help at all, it needs to be on the roads. I agree. I didn't realize they were in that bad of shape till we got out of the road.
I agree.
But anything we can do. So.
I agree.
And Tim, I give you all my road money, so you can have all of mine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Charlie and I would donate mine as well.
What about? 1 mile or whatever.
So, understanding we need to spend as much on blacktop as we possibly can, are there any other questions about this budget? I'll say, considering what the unknowns could be coming up, I think it's a solid budget. A lot of work on this by department heads to keep it flat as we had all requested. The total budget is smaller than it was last year by a fraction, and it does give us enough wiggle room in both contingency in the general fund as well as our reserve to meet the needs that we're going to have this coming year. I'm confident of that. Mr. Clerk, is there anything else we need to do to read this first edition of the budget or merely present it?
We need to read the actual numbers going in. I think Brenda has those.
Brenda, do you want to recite the numbers?
Yes, sir. The fiscal year 2021 balanced budget total is $29,460,028.98. The revenue and appropriations for each fund which the amounts correspond to each other. General fund, $11,606,365. Road fund, $5,097,283. Jail fund, $9,029,673.98. LGEA, which is local government economic assistance, $874,550. State grants fund, $691,157. Economic development fund, $60,000. Health insurance fund, $2,101,000. Total amount for the fiscal year 21 balanced budget is $29,460,028.98.
Any
I
additional
move to
comment?
approve, Judge.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Magistrate Putman, a second from Magistrate McCollum on first reading of the 2020-2021 budget. Any other thoughts or comments?
I also need to ask for approval of the annual standing orders when you're ready.
We're going to do that next.
The only thing I would say, Brad, is I believe the city is subsidizing the city residents if they bring in extra trash. I don't think they're charging them. I don't think they really look at that as an expense, whereas we have to pay for our county residents. Those people that's on the city county committee, if you all ever discuss that and they want to start charging the city residents, then I think we should do the same.
Charlie, do you know
county.
if that subsidy is actually paid for by the taxes city residents pay on their utility bills for sanitation?
Well, no, it's not really. It's not part of that pickup, but I think they include it because there's really no additional cost. I mean, the city's not having to put money in. They are, but they're not. They're having to dispose of the trash, but that you don't. It's just one big number. They don't really see it. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, but if that's something, I know the city is looking for revenue sources, and if they ever decide that that's something that they want to approach, then I think we're agreeable with it.
We will keep an eye on that.
Okay.
Has the city sold the
We have a motion on
landfill?
the second. Sorry.
Did the city sell the landfill?
No,
It had
but
closed the
you
landfill.
don't put any more stuff in. They closed it. They still
Okay.
own the property.
And the employees there,
The household garbage.
but the employees are now employees of Owensboro?
No, I don't
No.
think so.
No, they're not. They're still city employees.
The only thing the landfill is open for is for construction debris, which is still buried at the top. Everything else is sent to Davies County. The city owns the landfill and it is manned by city employees at this time.
They have a long period that they're going to have to monitor that landfill and pay for that over a long period of time. It's going to cost them some serious money.
Right. Okay, I talked to an employee the other day, and he said they were moving his employment to Owensboro, and that's the reason why I'm asking, because I just didn't know.
That may be something coming in the future. I don't know either.
And a question for the city.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And I will vote aye as well. Anybody opposed? Thank you. It's been a very smooth budget process so far, and I appreciate everybody's work on that. As Brenda Ryder mentioned, you have in your packet the annual standing order list. These are the daily, or weekly or monthly bills that we pay, like phone lines, postage, payroll, utilities that instead of putting them in claims every 2 weeks, we just go ahead and pay them because we know we're going to have to. And we just need approval to make sure that Brenda has permission to go ahead and pay these bills without it having to run through claims every time. This is something we do every year to make it easier for these standing orders. So you see the description there in this form. Any questions about that? Can
I
I get a
move to
motion to
approve,
approve
Judge.
the standing orders? Okay, we have a motion from
Second.
Manager Putman.
Second.
From Manager McCollum. Anybody have questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Before we jump back to Brenda Ryder, we'll turn it over to Mr. Gold for your report, Steve.
Judge, I've got several checks today. The first being salaries, FICA, and retirement for county attorney employees, $5,932.22. Dental and life insurance, $497.65 and $17.01. Health insurance, $6,990 and $1,001.15. AFLAC, $124.94. Flow through from the city, $458.33. Jail fees, $142.50. Interest, $21.14, $682.94, and $63.40. For a total remitted to county today, $15,931.28, and bringing the fiscal year present to date, $149,988.87. And I'm going to hand these to you, so I'm going to put my mask on.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Motion to accept.
Yep.
A motion from Master McCollum. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second from Master Southard. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. And to Treasurer Ryder for transfers and claims.
The transfers are as presented, reallocating appropriations within the existing budget. For the transfer regarding the grant, solid waste grant, that is due to the fact that the proceeds were received in the prior fiscal year, and the grant was actually administered in the current fiscal year. In addition to that, I need to ask for a transfer of $59,150 from the grants fund to the LGEA, and this is transferring the cash to the fund that the grant was actually administered through.
Questions? See the other transfers there?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Magistrate McCollum, second Magistrate Putman. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. And now claims.
In the general fund, to Sheriff Brady in the amount of $4,312.60. This is for training incentive and will be paid from the training incentive appropriation line to be paid with the May 14, 2020 payroll. PTS of America, $3,380. This is for sheriff transport and is to come from the transport appropriation line. Also to Magistrates Southard and McCollum in the amount of $2,156.30 each. This is to come from the Fiscal Court Training Incentive Appropriation line. In the road fund, to Amazon Capital Services in the amount of $605.38. This is to come from the Employee Safety Appropriation line. From the jail fund, to Advanced Document Solutions in the amount of $1,324.50. This is for copier leases and is to come from the Data Processing Equipment Appropriation line. To Lowe's in the amount of $2,207.65. This is to come from the equipment repairs and maintenance appropriation line. To Walmart in the amount of $520.54. This is to come from the equipment repairs and maintenance appropriation line. To US Bank, which is the credit card, in the amount of $10,676.07. The majority of this is to come from equipment repairs and maintenance, routine medical, and prisoner hygiene appropriation lines. Also, from the jail fund to Jailer Brady in the amount of $4,312.60. This is to come from the training incentive appropriation line and is to be paid with the May 14th, 2020 payroll. From the LGEA fund to the Smith Mills Volunteer Fire Department in the amount of $1,235. This is to reimburse for additional insurance for new equipment added, and is to come from the Community Volunteer Appropriation line.
Any questions?
Is that it, Brenda?
Ms. Ryder?
That's it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion, Master McCollum, second. Master Putman, any other questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Before we go to the county, we have with us Kenny Garrett from EMA, and want to ask him to come on the line. Kenny, any updates since our last fiscal court meeting on any of your activities?
Thanks, Judge, and good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
You know, at this point, we're still kind of status quo. We're continuing our distribution program, public, and while supplies last, the masks that have gone out to the various places. So that's still ongoing. You know, we're working on getting supplies ready to distribute to all the county employees. So that's kind of new as those offices get ready to open up here shortly. Working real close with the Hospital Coalition and Kentucky Emergency Management on the response and recovery efforts in general. So it's just day-to-day type of grind. So just trying to stay on top of all that and making sure that that everybody's got the PPE they need, and you know, things along those lines. You know, beyond that, I just, you know, finally just want to say thanks to our coroner, Bruce Farmer, for stepping up and running those logistics programs for us during this response. You know, I really appreciate his work keeping the first responders and all the agencies, city and the county, supplied with this PPE, because it's so important to keep everybody protected. So other than that, it's just we're in a good stride right now, and hopefully you know, we won't have to sprint too hard at any given point in the future.
Kenny mentioned the reopening of the local government offices. Last week, the mayor spelled out a date that could begin May 18th, next Monday. He made it a point to say that while that's a beginning date, it'll be up to the local offices to determine what's best for them. He gave some guidelines for hygiene and social distancing and the use of masks, and we're reviewing those. I've spoken this week to all the department heads and elected officials about thinking of their plans for reopening. I think at this point, you may not actually see a local office open on May 18th. It may come staggered as each department decides for itself what is best and how they can best manage traffic flow. We're ongoing discussions about that. I think that you may see that the county clerk's office, which is one of the most popular offices as far as in-person traffic goes, may not open until July, because they have so many concerns about the upcoming election, the processes surrounding those elections, and the danger of having any of their office staff infected before they execute the primary elections in June. So they may wait until after that it's over to open up to the public. The good news about that is that they can do just about 99% of what they need to do for the public via mail or email or online. They are going to be probably making some special appointments for other functions, but you'll be learning more about that soon. Mr. Gold is also preparing kind of a plan for his office and how he deals with the public. And again, it may not happen May 18th. It may happen at a later date. We will be announcing as much of those plans as we can in the coming few days or weeks. And Mr. Gold, anything you want to add to that?
Judge, we will be open in some form in compliance with the guidelines on the 18th, assuming that the PPE that we've ordered does come in time in order to comply with those guidelines. But we anticipate being open at some point, but it's not going to be the open that everybody is used to from prior to this pandemic. I would encourage the public to go take a look at those guidelines that have been published by the governor, because there's no way to comply with them and make it feel like it did last year. So, but we have a committee together, and we do believe that there will be some of our functions that we're able to reopen. We, like the clerk's office, are able to do a whole lot remotely by phone and electronically, but a couple of those in-person things we are going to be able to reopen on the 18th, we believe, as long as we have those supplies to come in.
Steve, do you know about
Just so you know,
the circuit?
June 1?
Yes,
Steve,
there
do you know
are.
about the circuit court clerk?
The administrative office of the courts, the Supreme Court, is actively working on that. They've had different committees put together for reopening both district, circuit, and family courts. We have not received the reports and guidelines from those yet. Our understanding is those are forthcoming this week, and that there will be some sort of plan for reopening the courts in some fashion as of June 1.
Okay.
They're also leaving a lot open to the local judges, and those judges are going to have to see how to implement those. So we're not sure exactly what that's going to look like. We have several meetings set up to do that, but there will be, there'll probably be a continued use of Zoom court like we've been doing, which is unique, but we do believe that that is probably going to continue quite a bit. They're encouraging the judges to not have nearly as much in-person contact as they used to.
I know somebody that's driver's license ran out on February the 17th, and I know they had the 90-day extension, but that's going to run out close to the 18th of May. What do we do about that?
My understanding is that is supposed to be reopened at some point on June 1. I have a daughter who turned 16 on March the 16th and is very interested in that operation reopening so that she can get her permit. So we're monitoring that very closely in the Gold House.
So what happens between if after May the 18th I'm driving and my license is expired?
Well, I don't believe it was until March I believe 14th or 15th that things closed down at the Judicial Center. Just pointing that out. I don't believe it will be a problem if someone were to get cited for something like that. I'm pretty sure that the county attorney's office is not going to be aggressively prosecuting that, as long as somebody cures it once things reopen.
Well, I would like to thank Bernice's office. I was doing some of the USDA about my mother's farm, and there was some deeds. They needed a copy of 14 documents. I had 13 of them, but I didn't have one of them, and Bernice sent that to me via email. So they really have done a good job keeping that office working.
Any other questions of Kenny? again, we'll be sending out more information about how the courthouse is going to reopen as we solidify these plans. So stay tuned on that. With that, I will open it up to go to the county, and I'll start with Magistrate Barry. Anything you'd like to offer for good of the county?
Yeah, thanks, Judge. Thanks, everybody, for being here or being there. It's a little bit different doing this video. I'm at the courthouse. One thing about the trash pickup, I think last weekend, and Bill sitting here, he could tell me if I'm wrong. I think it went a lot more smooth than the first weekend. It was in my district. I went out there a couple times. It looked like it was going well. I think that turned out good. Been reminded that the river's back down off Horseshoe Bend today. I had somebody call to remind me of that to pass it on to Bill, which I did. I won't give you his response, but he did have one. But, other than that, I think we're doing well. And Judge, before we end, I think the sheriff has something for good of the county as well. Just remember that. But I think all's good in District 1.
Thank you, Magistrate Moran.
I'd just like to ask everyone to have patience as our community starts the phases of reopening. And I encourage everyone to wear their mask and keep us all safe. And I miss you guys. I really do miss seeing everybody in the court. All's good in 2nd District.
We miss you too, Magistrate Moran, and stay safe. Magistrate Southern.
All's good in District 3. Rivers receding. We could use some graders, but there's still water across the roads and places, so they need to hold off a little bit. But everything's looking pretty good.
Thank you, Master McCollum.
Everything I think is good in the 5th. I've got 2 questions. Amy still on? My questions are about the healthcare bid process, and also if we've gotten the architectural thing for the boilers, if we've gotten that where we can bid that or what we're going to do. I don't want to let these things drop off our docket and then we come back with another emergency, because I think we do have some short fuses on these.
I am here. The healthcare RFP, I had it almost complete, and then I wanted to make some changes to that after speaking with some of the operations staff. So we wanted to add a few things into that. And then on the boiler, Officer Snodgrass and I met this morning. He's checking with Jay Smith. Jay was here last Monday and was coming up with several options to get the holding tanks in, and if possible, remove the ones that we have, and we may have to actually add on outside the boiler room to accommodate the storage tanks. So he's coming up with several options on that, and he is looking towards the future. I asked him to do that.
Okay. Can we put those on our agenda so we don't drop them, and let's just keep coming back to that so we know what we're going to do?
We can.
Well, everything else is good. Thank you all.
It's my understanding that the jailer does plan to bid out the healthcare contract. Is that correct?
Yes.
Actually, I think it would make sense, since there's a relatively short timeline on that, to go ahead and approve doing that.
Yeah. We've already agreed that she should go out and bid it, and so there's nothing stopping her from doing that.
Okay, good deal. I just want to make sure, because there is an automatic renewal clause in the existing contract that requires 30 days of notice to terminate. So that's coming up. That'll be, I guess, at the end of the month. So any process of bidding out, we need to get on that relatively quickly. And I know the jailer's been working on that very hard.
We can make a note just to get an update at the next fiscal court meeting.
Dave. That's all.
Okay. Master Putman.
Thank you, Judge. I would agree with everything Beth said. I think she hit it on the head. Just encourage everybody to stay safe, wear those respirators or face masks, whichever one you have. And just thank the community for what they're doing during this pandemic episode. It's looks like Henderson County's staying ahead of the game and doing a great job, and as well as all the public officials and all of our employees. So everybody stay safe, and thank you, Judge. All is good in the fourth.
Thank you. And Mr. Gold?
Judge, all is well in the county attorney's office. I've still been very proud and frankly amazed at how well the county attorney staff and the entire county government staff has come together to make sure that we're still able to provide essential services to the public and be safe. Finding that mix of protecting our employees and protecting the public while still accomplishing our missions hasn't been easy and has had some thorny issues come up in a lot of situations, but we've been able to get through those and still accomplish those missions. And I've been really proud to be a part of this and seeing both the county attorney's office and Henderson County as a whole step up. And it's been really nice to be part of it. And I just wanted let everybody know how much I appreciate it. And I also want to echo the appreciation for Bruce Farmer and what he's done as far as helping EMA and getting the sanitizer out and the PPE, trying to make sure that he doesn't have work in his other hat as coroner. So thank you for that, Bruce, and thank you to everybody that's been part of that. And thank you, Kenny.
Thank you, Steve. I'll echo all that. Kenny, Bruce, all the emergency and first responder community here has really been on top of things, trying to get ahead of the game. The distribution of masks in the community has been very well received. And first thing you have to do is hunt down that many masks. And we've been able to do it and then give them to people who are going to have to be using them here more, starting yesterday. I will say that Kenny especially has been really working hard. We have a morning group call every day at 8:15 a.m. to check in with all the first responders, the hospital, the schools, county government, city government, to get everybody on the same page about what's going on. That's very helpful. Want to also thank everybody who helped with the Facebook Live broadcast we did last week in coordination with the Chamber of Commerce, DHP, Tourism, Economic Development, to help brief our business community on the reopening process, get the perspective of both state and local chambers, provide a lot of places to get resources, online spots for resources. We had comments from Greg Rich, CEO of Gibbs, as well as the owner of Landy Lane Boutique, either end of the spectrum of business, about how they're preparing to reopen or ramp up to 100%. It was well received. It was viewed by several thousand people and reached several thousand more than that. So thanks. We originated the broadcast from here in the courtroom. A lot of cooperation on county staff to do that, and I think it was very helpful. I reiterate the call to be patient with businesses as they figure out this new normal, especially our restaurants. There are some unusual guidelines that they're asked to follow, and some may be able to make that work financially, some maybe not, at least initially. So be patient with all of them. Again, the reopening of our economy is going to be touch and go, I would say. And so anything the fiscal court can do to assist people, we'll try to do, as well as Kenny Garrett's office. Big kudos to the road department, the recycling staff, especially Nancy Watkins, for this past weekend spring cleanup, which went much better. We had to devote a lot more resources to it, but we had much fewer problems than we had the weekend before that. And we are planning our final spring cleanup weekend this Saturday and Sunday at Zion, Niagara, and Roberts. And we'll hopefully have that go smoothly as well. There's no doubt that the people of the community needed it, because we have filled up several tons of throwaway items in these bins we put out. So hopefully that means that's, tons of stuff that didn't get dumped out somewhere where it shouldn't have been. and maybe save some people a trip into the landfill. But again, a much better experience this weekend, and we hope to have a similarly smooth ride this coming Saturday. Thanks all again for your patience. These Zoom meetings are getting easier. I appreciate you learning a little bit more. Oh, yeah, that's right. And I think Steve reminded me that Sheriff Brady wanted to make a comment before we sign off.
Thank you, Judge. Very quickly, Charlie, to address your question a while ago about driver's license and registrations. I can't speak for the state police or the city, but if your license is expired during the pandemic, we're going to be very lenient in any kind of enforcement. Now, if you revoked or suspended or it expired a year and a half ago, that may be a different issue, but we're going to be very lenient about that, trying to work with our community. Judge, I'd just like to point out that this week is Police Memorial Week, and Thursday the 14th is Police Memorial Day. There's 21,000 names on the wall in Washington, D.C. of police officers who've been killed on line of duty. Our deputies have been working out the pandemic. They've been able to work from the house. We've been out exposed to the public and in homes and in contact with people. So I would like you sometime this week, if you would, to thank a city policeman, a state trooper, a deputy sheriff, a corrections officer, a court security person. They've been out there in contact with people. They can't hide at home. It's a big week for law enforcement. It's an important week for us. I appreciate if y'all get a chance to acknowledge our good people in Henderson County that help keep this community safe. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sheriff.
Thank you, Ed.
Judge, can I add to that? Last week was actually National Correctional Officers Week. Began back in 1984. So the staff here, they have been absolutely amazing working through all the changes and the precautionary measures that we have had to take just to prevent the possible introduction of coronavirus into our facility. They've stuck it out. They've worked like very long, stressful hours, and they are going above and beyond. So if you see any of our jail staff, be sure and tell them that you appreciate the work that they do, and not just during a pandemic, but every day. They're out here and they're working hard, and they're dedicated to keeping our jail safe and secure, and keeping us as one of the top-rated jails in the state.
Amen. If nobody has anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Motion from Magistrate Putnam, second by Magistrate Berry, and all those in favor can sign off. See you soon.
See you soon.